Hi there. My name is Deborah Melkin. I'm Deb the DBA. That's my blog, that's my YouTube channel. And this is part 3 of where did you get that query plan from and why it matters. Hopefully you've watched parts 1 and 2 about the estimated and actual execution plans. We're going to move on to the captured execution plans that we have in SQL Server. Those are the DMVs and Query Store. DMV stands for Dynamic Management View. So let's just jump right in and take a look. All right, so let's talk about getting plans from DMVs and Query Store. So these are other ways that we store information. We take those plans and we can access them and see what's in those query plans. Now, what's a little different about DMVs and Query Store is that everything's aggregated. So we don't have the individual pieces of information. The query plans themselves are the same, just like you would get for estimated execution plans or actual execution plans, but the data we get is kind of different. So let's take a quick look. I've got a query here going from DMVs from the DM exec query stats. I got the query. I modified this from what I found in that blog post on the Redgate website. I'm horrible at finding these queries and creating them from scratch. I'm horrible about it. Thank you to all of you out there who are able to put stuff together and share. And I've already run this, and you can see the results. And notice when we had the actual execution plan, we didn't have the user-defined function information. Now we do. And because I'm getting the executed plan information, we know what was actually executed, and we have those plans here. We only have the estimated information because we don't have the actual. Why? Because everything's aggregated. We could, if I've only run this once, but for those user-defined functions, because it's a cross-apply, it's run for once for every record return. So while my statement was only run once, we have 273 executes for everything else. But we do have information like when the plan was created, when the last execution time was, last min, max, total elapsed time. So we have durations. So we can figure out information from there, but this is summarized, aggregated data, so we don't find that with the query plan itself. And we're able to extract just that single plan for each statement so we can view those individually and do what we normally do for performance tuning. I've already saved the one for our select statement, and we can see that right here. And if you'll notice, it looks exactly like what we saw for the actual execution plan because this was the select statement that was actually executed. But if you notice things like hovering over the number of rows, we only have the estimated rows. If we look at properties for the select statement, we don't have any of the actual numbers. Parameter list, we don't know what it was run for because we just know what the plan was compiled for. We don't have a history of every parameter that was passed in. That's a lot of information. SQL Server just can't do it. It can't hold on to it. It's aggregated. Similar thing for Query Store. So if I look, I can use the top resources. Let's hide this. And I can look at one of the essentially reports that's given to us built into Management Studio. This one is the top resources consumers. Now I've done this for the past couple of days because I've worked on this and I've run this twice. So we can see that information here. We can see the data when I ran it here a couple of days ago, and then we can see when I ran it today. We have, again, it's aggregated data, so we can see things like if I hover, it'll show, let me go scroll over. You can see things like number of execution counts, total duration. Again, we have those averages, those summed up information, but these are done in smaller chunks. So had I been running this more times, we would be able to see the difference and see performance over time. But what we care about is this query plan. And again, it's the same query plan we've seen elsewhere. We have a parameter list, so we see what things were compiled for, and we have that information. Same as the actual execution plan because it's what's there. We just don't have those actual values. And we can do comparisons and see that everything's the same. I've already saved my Query Store plan off, and we can do that same compare show plan. And let's use that DMV one that I've also saved off. And if we look, we notice that everything is the same. If I look over here at the properties where it shows difference, the only thing that's different, which I find interesting, is this retrieved from cache. Query Store says, no, it was not retrieved from cache, but the DMV says, oh no, it was. Why is that? And it goes to how things are stored in Query Store. Query Store is from all of the executions, and then it's compiled together. This DMV was only the executed version. I had done the estimated execution plan, so I didn't actually run it. It wasn't actually executed, it was just had the plan created. So that's why it was retrieved from cache, where Query Store said, oh no, this was brand new when I was run, so I can do that. So it's able to figure out that it didn't matter that it was the estimated execution plan that created the plan first. It just knows, here's the plan, it was brand new, and it's able to put it all together. A fun little nuance. But if you'll notice, everything else here is the same. I don't have that information. Now we can do some other fun things. Let's go things out, and let's do a compare of this actual execution plan to what we have in Query Store. So I'll do the same thing, compare show plan, and let's choose Query Store plan. And now we can notice there are a little more differences, but if you'll notice, it's because we have things like actual numbers. We know the actual number of rows returned for all executions because we've actually executed it. We have degrees of parallelism. We don't know that when we estimate things. We have query time stats, which don't exist. This particular, when we ran it, it was retrieved from cache. We've already talked about that difference from what was in Query Store. The statement, I'm not quite sure why the statement is showing up different, but again, it's a small little nuances, but everything else that we have is the same. We have wait stats. Again, everything is the same except for those actual runtime stats that we have and had available to us when we ran the store procedure, and we're able to capture that the same way. Query Store is aggregated. It can't store that information for every single run. It has to do the average over that time interval it captures the data for. So what do we want to walk away with? We want to walk away with the understanding that DMVs and Query Store are aggregated data for the runtime stats that go along with the execution plan. Single execution plan, but aggregations. I think one of the biggest mistakes that we have, especially with Query Store, is because it's historical information, we want to be able to use it as an audit trail, and that's really not the case. We can see trends over time, but we don't see the individual statements that created those trends. But because we have that information, we're now armed with the data to say, all right, if I'm noticing it at the same time every day, maybe I need to do something like set up an extended events trace and dig in, and then I can see what's being run from there. But that's not what these are designed to be. It's the aggregation. And because of that, that's really why I wanted to do this series of videos anyway, because I want to kind of bring it all together, and it's understanding those individual nuances that makes such a difference. So really the idea is, think about when we want to use each of those. If you have the query itself, you know the procedure, you know the parameter, then you have the estimated and actual execution plans available for you to help troubleshoot. Maybe you don't want to run it because you've heard that query takes 30 minutes and takes down a server. You can look at the estimated plan and start digging in and figuring out, oh, this looks like it's a problem point. Let me start there. If you can get the runtime stats with the actual plan and then start performance tuning from there. Otherwise, you can use things like DMV to get a general sense of performance. Maybe you can identify the worst running query for that particular database and dig in from there. And then when you have the Query Store, which has the captured based on time interval, so you can see that general performance over time. And this is what SQL Server can use for some of those intelligent query processing features and feedback that it uses to kind of help you along with those performance along the way. But it's really important to understand those differences and those nuances as to what's captured with the execution plan, so you understand how to interpret that data and really use it effectively to drill down and perform your query and performance tune your queries. So with that, I want to say thank you again for watching. Hopefully you found these useful. If so, like, subscribe, leave a comment, let me know somehow. You can find all of these on my blog and on my YouTube channel. Thank you again for watching and hope you have a great day.